Now let's take a look at rendering these sand particles. And as you know that because all of these sands, they are just an a particle simulation. So the rendering is the same as you can render your regular particle simulation. Let's create an a LOPNet and import our these grain particles and let's render them. So in here, as you know, you can add an a file cache node, and first you can write down your simulation cache, and after you have written out your caches, then you can import them into LOPs. So I'm going to just add a LOP network in here. Let's add this and maybe let's create a null at the end for referencing. And in here I'm going to say out for render, rename this, and let's go into the LOPNet. And in here, it was just adjusting its viewport. And in here let's add an a SOP import node, and in here I want to import my out render node. Hit accept, and here we have our sand particles imported. And in here let's create a material library. Let's create this material and let's connect this, and let's dive inside. And in here let's go into the Karma and Karma material builder, and I'm going to rename this material to our sand. That is our sand material. Let's dive inside. Let me remove this input, we do not need this. And in here to set the color, as you know that we have this random color, and I think that color is looking good for creating the sand particles. So in here we can import this with the material X geometry color node. Let's add a material X geometry color and let's connect this into the base color, which means we will want to use the CD to set the color. And in here let's go into the specular, and in here we just need to increase the roughness because the sand should have a rougher value. Let's keep, maybe adjust this to 0.5. Let's go back and in here click on this autofill, assign to geometry and assign this in here. And down here we need to create a light, so let's add a dome light in here, connect this, and I'm going to use a skylight garage HDRI. So let's pick our HDRI skylight garage. Let me activate my view tool again, and in here let's create a Karma node, connect this in here, view this and change this to XPU because we want to render this with XPU. Let's change the render engine to Karma XPU, and in here as you can see we are now rendering our particles, and here we are importing our P scale, and we also have our color information in here. And right now these sand particles are too big because we have lot less particles, and in here you can create a more high resolution version of your simulation that will have a very much smaller scale of the sand particle, and they will look like sand. But right now they do not look as much sand because of the scale. Maybe let's also add a ground plane because right now we do not have a ground plane. So for that let's go back. I'm going to create a just simple grid in here. Let's add this. Maybe instead of creating the grid in here, and we can go into the LOPNet and import this. Inside of the Solaris we do have the option to create the grid. So let's add a grid in here, and let's add a merge node to merge both of them together. And here we have the ground, or this ground added. Let's go into the grid, and in here I'm going to just increase the uniform scale. And now we just need to create the material for our ground. So let's go into the material library. I'm going to go into the Karma material builder, and I'm going to call this one ground. Let's dive inside, and onto this surface material I'm going to just create a very darkish grayish color, and onto the specular I'm going to just increase its roughness value because I don't want the ground to be shiny. And you can import your own ground materials and you can just plug them in here to create a ground, but I'm just using this simple grid. Let's go back, And in here to import our this second material, this ground material, let's go into the material library and click on this autofill, and that will fill out the ground material. And we just need to drag this node in here. So I'm going to just drag the grid into this to assign it. And in here to render this, let's change this to Karma XPU. Here you can see our ground has been added. And right now, because our this scene has been changed, Optex has to reinitialize. Here you can see it has been initialized and we are accelerated. Our rendering has been accelerated. And there we have it, our sand particles with the grain. So rendering the grain particles is just as the same as you would render your normal particles.